In the annals of maritime history, no name conjures more fear, more intrigue, and more mystery than Blackbeard. He was the most notorious pirate of his time, a master of image and intimidation. But beyond the legends of his fiery beard and cutlass lies an even greater legend, a treasure hoard of unimaginable wealth, buried somewhere along the Carolina coast, waiting to be found. For 300 years, people have searched. But what if the real treasure was never about gold and jewels? Before he was Blackbeard, he was likely Edward Teach. We don't know much about his early life, which is common for pirates of that era. He probably served as a privateer for the British during Queen Anne's War, learning the brutal trade of sea warfare legally. But when the war ended, thousands of sailors like Teach were left unemployed. For many, piracy wasn't just a choice, it was a necessity. The Caribbean and the American colonies became a powder keg, and men like Teach were ready to light the fuse. This was the golden age of piracy, a brief, chaotic window from roughly 1715 to 1725. It wasn't the romantic adventure we see in movies. It was a desperate, violent rebellion against the crushing poverty and brutal conditions of merchant and naval ships. For a skilled sailor, a pirate's life offered a radical alternative, a chance at democracy, equality, and a share of the profits. They created their own rules, their own society, and for a short time, they ruled the seas. Edward Teach understood something crucial. Fear was a more powerful weapon than any cannon. He cultivated a terrifying image. He was a tall man, with a wild, black beard he would reportedly tie into pigtails. Before a battle, he'd weave hemp fuses into his beard and hat and light them. Wreathed in smoke and fire, he looked like a demon emerging from the depths. His goal wasn't to fight, it was to make his enemies surrender without firing a single shot. And it worked. His reputation did the dirty work for him. In 1717, Blackbeard captured a massive French slaving ship called La Concorde. He refitted it, mounted 40 cannons on its decks, and renamed it the Queen Anne's Revenge. It was one of the most formidable pirate ships of all time. With this floating fortress, he commanded a small fleet, a pirate flotilla that could challenge any naval vessel. For the next year, he terrorized the shipping lanes from the Caribbean to the shores of North Carolina. His most audacious act came in May 1718. Blackbeard and his fleet blockaded the port of Charleston, South Carolina. He held the entire city hostage for nearly a week. He didn't demand gold or jewels. His demand was strangely specific, a chest of medicine. It's a detail that humanizes him, suggesting a sick crew or perhaps a personal ailment. The city leaders eventually complied, and Blackbeard, true to his word, sailed away. This event cemented his legend as the most powerful pirate in the Americas. But just weeks later, the Queen Anne's Revenge ran aground on a sandbar at Beaufort Inlet, North Carolina. Another of his ships also wrecked. Some historians believe this was no accident. Blackbeard may have intentionally grounded his flagship to break up his large crew. With fewer men, he'd have a larger share of the treasure. He marooned some of his crew, took a royal pardon from the governor of North Carolina, Charles Eden, and settled down, supposedly retiring from piracy. It's during this period that the legend of his buried treasure truly begins. The stories say that Blackbeard couldn't trust anyone with his immense fortune. His quartermaster once asked him where he kept his money, and Blackbeard supposedly replied, "Only myself and the devil know, and the longest liver takes all." This famous quote is the bedrock of the entire legend. Did he bury it in the winding creeks of the Outer Banks? Or perhaps on Ocracoke Island, his favorite haunt? But here's the historical reality check. Pirates rarely bury treasure. It just didn't make practical sense. A pirate's career was often short and violent. They wanted to spend their loot immediately, on drink, gambling, and revelry. Furthermore, a pirate crew operated as a shareholding company. Every piece of loot was meticulously cataloged and divided among the crew according to their rank and role. Hiding the treasure would have been stealing from his own men, an act punishable by death or marooning. Blackbeard's retirement was short-lived. He couldn't resist the call of the sea, but his renewed piracy angered Virginia's governor, Alexander Spotswood. Spotswood organized a secret naval mission, led by Lieutenant Robert Maynard, to hunt Blackbeard down. In November 1718, they cornered him at Ocracoke Inlet. The battle was ferocious. Blackbeard fought like a man possessed, but he was finally overwhelmed. Maynard's men killed him on the deck of his sloop. According to the legend, he was shot 5 times and suffered at least 20 sword cuts before he died. Maynard searched Blackbeard's ship for the fabled treasure. He found letters, supplies, and a small amount of goods, but no vast hoard of gold and silver. And so the search began. For centuries, treasure hunters have descended on the coasts of North Carolina and Virginia, armed with old maps, legends, and metal detectors. They've searched Plum Point, Ocracoke, and the countless small islands that the coastline. But no significant treasure has ever been verifiably linked to Blackbeard. The biggest discovery came not from a treasure hunter, but from marine archaeologists. In 1996, the wreckage of a ship was found in Beaufort Inlet, right where Blackbeard's flagship was lost. After years of careful excavation, it was confirmed to be the Queen Anne's Revenge. The artifacts recovered are a treasure in their own right: cannons, anchors, medical supplies, and gold dust. It's a tangible link to the man himself. It's the real Blackbeard's treasure, not a chest of gold, but a priceless collection of historical artifacts. So, was there ever a buried hoard? Probably not. The legend was likely fueled by fiction, most famously Robert Louis Stevenson's novel, Treasure Island, which cemented the myth of buried pirate treasure in our collective imagination. Blackbeard's real genius was in creating a story, a brand that has outlived him by 3 centuries. He knew that legends were more valuable than gold. The search for Blackbeard's gold may be a fool's errand, but the search for the man behind the legend continues. The artifacts from his ship tell us more about his life than any treasure map ever could. They reveal a brilliant, ruthless, and complex figure who ruled the seas through fear and strategy. And that story, the true story of Edward Teach, is the real treasure he left behind.